Hey guys, welcome to week 7. So I am over at Ag Engineering, hanging out with the big machinery, tractors and equipment. This week we're talking about transfer of learning. By the way, they're running, which makes it a little bit noisy in the background. Sorry about that, but let's see what we do. Transfer of learning plans. How do you do that? Does it make a difference? If you remember, so transfer of learning, think about getting your participants to apply what they learned in their educational program or training. So I gave the example, I think, of someone drawing blood. You want them to have learned how to do that by watching a lecture, or would you like them hands-on, really learning what that's about? The same with working on this equipment here in our college over in Ag Engineering. You want people to trust hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to somebody who just studied, or do you want them to have some hands-on experience? That transfer of learning, that ability is huge. Guess what? Oh, okay, so two quick things, and then I'll tell you the guess what. First, in this module, how do we ensure that participants actually learn what we intended, and can we ensure that they'll be able to apply that information in their lives, whatever it may be? Here's the guess what. Since the 1980s, think back to the first lecture probably, I talked about the Harvard Business Review article. Billions of dollars are spent on training, but how much of it is actually retained? Man, about 10%. That's insane. That's sad. How can we up that number? How can we improve those statistics? Let's talk about that this week. So I've got a video instead of alternate reading. I've got video. Watch the first 6 or just watch the whole thing. It's very interesting. It's from the American Medical Association, and it talks about the true transfer of learning that happens in the medical practice, particularly with low resource audiences. You're dealing with a whole variety of people and understanding levels. They talk about in the video the standard or a basic age, what people can really understand when the doctor or the medical professionals are giving them instructions for when they get home on changing their wound dressing or on when to take the medications and how to read the labels. It's very eye-opening. So I ask you to watch that and see what you think. It'll really hit you, and it'll make this transfer of learning very real. Some of the models, this just shows kind of the integration and the relationship between the planning process, which is what we're talking about all semester, about the learning characteristics, motivation of those people. If I'm talking to my healthcare professional and I need to take certain pills when I get home, I'm pretty motivated. But that's because I understand. I've got a higher level of understanding maybe than somebody who has never been sick before. Maybe they don't have, they're really low resource and they've not, they may not have a high IQ. I mean, there are all kinds of things that come into play with motivation. Design delivery methods, we've talked about that. The context, every week I'm talking about context. The immediate application, the workplace environment, and eliminating those barriers. All of these things are really related. We're trying to figure out how to transfer that learning, what we're teaching, to our participants so they can put it into action. So the challenge is really, and I don't remember if I talked about this last time, Caffarella model of complexity. The more complex the scope and the goals, the larger number of people affected, the greater magnitude of the changes, the less control the planners have over the organization or the societal factors where you're working, the more difficult it's going to be to successfully transfer that learning. These are things you need to think about. However, we can mitigate those with program planning. So good. So let's jump in. Some framework. 3 key elements we'll just blow through very quickly. What's your timing of doing this, planning for the transfer? There are the variety of strategies, and then who are the key people involved. So when, same as in thinking about a lot of things in program evaluation. Last week, we can do it before, during, or after. After could be the most effective because you've trained, you've asked, but then people are getting up and walking out of the door. They may not want to stick around for another 5-minute survey. So you can have that difficulty. Something to think about. Strategies and techniques, there are some different things you can do though. Allowing learners to be part of the planning process gets them more involved. As they get more skin in the game and more interest, then you can have the assessment of how they're learning. It's more easy to do that. Sharing the plans, involving them and stakeholders can also help them make more informed choices. Sharing the methods, just giving them some influence and some involvement can be a big thing. The key people, think about, and we talked about this before as well when planning the programs, not just the instructors or who's going to deliver, but the representatives of the sponsor organization, supervisors, managers, depending on, again, what class it is you're teaching or what you're trying to convey, family and friends, members of the community, again, depending on the context and the situation. So what are a couple of, I threw a couple of these in here just this week because I thought this may be interesting. I'll give you the link from UCAT, University Center for Advancement in Teaching. It's like, what is that? I love these guys. I talk to them all the time. And I'll share 3 here, and then I'll post online some other ones. With a minute paper, you decide what part of the course you want to focus on. Maybe it's how well they understood this week's lecture or today's lecture or last week's homework assignment. And then you just ask them to take out a piece of paper and spend 60 seconds. What's the most important thing you learned? What question remains unanswered? You can gather those up and have a discussion right then, or you can take them home with you and then improve your program, because most of the time we're working on programs that are going to be delivered multiple times, perhaps to multiple audiences. Otherwise, it's a whole lot of investment for just one class. So we want to improve them and make them better and get that transfer of learning going. UCAT's got some really great stuff. One sentence summary. Again, this can be done in writing or it can be done verbally at the end of a class. Great way to have a conversation, to hear stories, and to get some feedback on that transfer. And also the discussion and the reflection is a learning system or a process that will help cement the learning. So it's actually kind of 2 birds with one. Muddiest point, just a different way of asking the question, what didn't you understand? Where was the disconnect? And that can help you as well as you're thinking through. So UCAT, I'll post the link. Really good folks, good stuff. Some of the challenges that planners face, Caffarella and Daffron talk about, learning transfer systems, inventory, return of investment. If you're trying to get, what's your ROI? Certainly encountered that quite a bit when I was in private industry and was conducting training. States of concerns models. So there are a couple of different ways of thinking about this. So read about some of those. I can post, or I will, a couple of additional articles, or just go to your optional text if you have that, or borrow from somebody. It's good stuff. Discussion board this week. Tell us about a time when you were learning a new skill or an ability and it was transferred to you by an educational program. So reflect on that. In reflecting on it, it will help you think about how you deliver when you're setting up your next program, and that's what I want you to think about. So have that in your discussion board. How was it transferred? What elements might have helped you? So that's it for this week from the noisy ag engineering area. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.